So, good evening, friends. We'll start with session today. We have started with the practical part of the Organon in the last lecture, that is right from the 71 aphorism. And this is the part where we can learn a lot. So, in the first lecture, we have discussed about the three questions which are put forward by Hahnemann in the 71 aphorism, that he deals this session into three different parts. The first is related with knowledge of disease, classification of disease, and understanding those diseases from the individual, from that specific person. That is a case taking. So it has been related right from aphorism number 72 to 104. Then he deals with 105 onwards to the 145, which deals with knowledge of medicinal powers, knowledge of medicines and drugs, that is drug proving. And then the third most practical part, where there is actual application of the medicine is there, is related with the aphorism number 146 onwards to 291. So these are three different sessions which we have to learn in this practical part of Organon, and out of which we have started with the definition of this acute disease in the aphorism number 70. Hahnemann classified the diseases into two basic varieties. The first variety is a dynamic variety where the cause is external in the form of trauma, in the form of some external injury. That is, something enters in your body in the form of food poisoning, anything enters inside your body leading to form diseases to which is labeled by the name of a dynamic disease. But the second variety where the cause is internal and which starts directly from inside, those are dynamic diseases where cause lies in the vital force or vital principle. And if that vital force, vital principle is disturbed, then the disease develops. And those diseases are called to be a dynamic. They are classified into two varieties. The first one acute and second one is chronic. Out of which acute we have discussed in yesterday, the last lecture, and we have discussed the definition which has been divided into two parts. The first part is given in the 72 aphorism, and part of it which is remaining is explained in 73 aphorism. And that we have discussed along with many examples related with the acute diseases in last lecture. So what he said about acute disease, just we'll revise that definition and then we'll enter into the chronic disease definition. The disease to which man is liable are either rapid morbid process of abnormal deranged vital force, which have a tendency to finish their course more or less quickly, but always in a moderate time, which when left to itself terminates in a moderate period of time into death or recovery. These are termed as acute diseases. So in case of acute disease, there is period of prodrome, there is period of progress, and there is period of decline. And decline either in the form of recovery complete or either in the form of death. So this is the first thing which happens. Second important thing which we have to discuss in today's session is related with chronic diseases, and in fact this is the most important aspect, and this definition itself gives you all details about the chronic disease. So we'll learn that that definition. We'll learn first, read that definition, and we'll learn step by step, the part by part, so that we can understand everything about this. What he says regarding it, or they are the diseases of such a character that, with small, often imperceptible beginning, dynamically derange the living organism, each in its own peculiar manner, and cause it gradually to deviate from the healthy condition in such a way that the automatic life energy, called vital force, whose office is to preserve the health, only opposes to them at the commencement, and during their progress, imperfect, unsuitable, useless resistance, but is unable to itself to extinguish them, but must helplessly suffer them to spread, and itself to be ever more and more abnormally deranged, until at a length an organism is destroyed. These are termed as chronic diseases. They are caused because of dynamic infection with chronic miasm. So see, this definition itself has a lot of meaning. This definition gives you many things regarding it. 26 or 27. We'll start with the first thing, what he starts with the definition. They are diseases of such a character with small, often imperceptible beginning. What do you mean by small, often imperceptible beginning? Small, often. You don't know when the disease has started. You don't know when the hypertension started, when the diabetes has been started, when rheumatoid arthritis taken origin. You never understand when the disease has started. Imperceptible beginning. You cannot define, yes, doctor, I have started hypertension yesterday midnight at 7:30 p.m. or 1 p.m., 1 a.m. No, you cannot define. No, nothing like that. Every chronic disease has its origin is imperceptible. Acute you can define. Yesterday I was very good. Today morning I got the coryza. You can define the timing. Here you can't. And that's why he says that often imperceptible beginning, small, that is a one more word which he has used, with small, often imperceptible beginning. What do you mean by small? Small means there are many minute things which happens. Patient again and again comes with certain specific minute symptoms. For example, patient comes with the headache or patient comes with the something else, and gradually it was recurring again and again, and no one gives importance to it because everyone considers it's common, it's not so important. And one of the day when he was having it more and more, and one day he was investigated and found there was a tumor inside the brain. So sometimes there are multiple functional symptoms comes. Patient complains that patient is having the pain in breast since last 6 months, and she was checked by many doctors and they found nothing abnormal. After 6 months, she started getting there is some tumor, some swelling, and then she gradually develops that tumor over there. Then she was investigated and found that there is some malignant neoplastic tumor. So chronic diseases first always shows the functional symptoms. And those functional symptoms later on turns towards the pathology because the law of biological development always works. That means function creates the organs. This is the only law. Functions are prior and then the organ is developed. So functions are prior to the pathology. So they have often small imperceptible beginnings. Patient has certain features and he overlooks, or even doctors, many physicians overlooks the patient's features because they don't give importance when things are found to be a functional. They label functional, forget it, and it should not be forgettable or forgettable. So he explains over there with small, often imperceptible beginning, dynamically deranged the living organism. Where the person is affecting, a patient is getting affected at the dynamic level, which is not seen. You get affected whenever you don't know when you have got affected, where you have got affected. Someone scolds you because as there is no reason, and someone comes and scolds you. What happens? It disturbs your life principle. It disturbs your vital principle. That remains inside your mind, grudge. That if it persists for longer time of duration, if it never comes to normal, what happens? You go on thinking again and again over that. One day it happens that it disturbs your vital force, and then it reflects in the form of sunshine and symptoms. So dynamically it has affected you. First, it tries to recover because that is the function of vital force that has been defined over there. What is this? Begin dynamically deranged living organism, each in its own peculiar manner. Every chronic disease has its own peculiar manner. So diabetes has its own peculiar manner. Hypertension is having its own peculiar manner. Crohn's disease is having its own peculiar manner. Every disease, whatever you consider chronic in origin, have its own peculiarity. So it goes on in such a manner and cause it gradually to deviate from the healthy condition. So it never happens. Yesterday there was everything fine and today patient has diabetes. It's not like that. It is a process, long process when things have been changed. It is a long process. The hypertension is developed. It is a long process when the rheumatism is developed. It's not within a day. So it gradually cause it gradually to deviate from healthy condition in such a way that the automatic life energy called vital force. How it affects the human being? It affects the vital energy. That energy is disturbed because of certain things happens in your life. Which are the things which happens? It is the spiritual, conceptual, dynamic, inimical thing which happens in our life. The thing never goes against with our will and it goes against your will. It affects, it disturbs. And it disturbs basically your vital energy, it disturbs your vital force, it disturbs your vital principle. And it disturbs in such a manner that this vital energy once gets disturbed, what he says, who called vital force, whose office is to preserve the health. That is the function of vital force. So you immediately never get disease. Basically, if you disturb, your vital force tries to bring back the harmony. That is the basic function. Preservation of the health is the function of vital force. So it never allows you to get disturbed and it never allows itself to get disturbed. That is the first thing, most important function of vital force. So whenever the things goes against your will, still you remain healthy. You come out of that anger, you come out of that depression, you come out of that disturbance, and you are remains healthy. Otherwise, everyone would have been deceased every time. But never happens because that is the function of the vital force. So because of vital force, the person remains in the state of health. So whose office is to preserve the health, only opposes to them at the commencement. So vital force opposes it at the commencement. It tries to fight against it at the commencement. At the commencement means in the starting period, in the starting phase, it tries to fight. So that is what is the function of the vital force. It tries to fight back. Only opposes to them at the commencement and during their progress. So as it goes on gradually increasing, during that progress, with imperfect, unsuitable, useless resistance. So it tries, but it is not a perfect resistance. It is useless resistance because it will not going to cure that patient or bring back again into the state of health. It is unsuitable to the situation and that's why it never recovers. So it tries to fight, it tries to resist, but the resistance is not sufficient to bring back the health. So imperfect, unsuitable, useless resistance, but is unable of itself to extinguish them. So vital force is unable to extinguish those diseases itself. But what happens? But must helplessly suffer. It itself suffers to spread and itself be ever more and more abnormally dealing. So day by day, day by day, day by day, it goes on damaging the health. It goes on affecting the health. It gradually goes on disturbing. So vital force doesn't recover the patient and vital force itself gradually starts getting diseased more and more until at a length, what he says, until at a length, the organism is destroyed. So it goes on until at a length where organism is completely destroyed. These are termed as chronic diseases. See, here there is a period of prodrome, there is a progress, and there is no decline. There is only a death, only one end. There is a difference between acute and chronic. In acute, there is chances of recovery are much more than the death. Here, there is no chance of recovery. There is 100% sure death. That's why chronic diseases are more dangerous than the acute. Chronic diseases always have this period of prodrome, progress, and death. Finish. That's all. So unless and until the organism is destroyed, these are termed as chronic diseases. This is, see, in a whole definition, he gives the whole perspective about what is the chronic disease, how it is developed, what may be the cause behind that, and everything he tried to explain over there. So this understanding is very important when we deal with the diseases. First, we have to differentiate whether it is acute or whether it is chronic. Then your perspective looking towards those diseases, it differs. Your management differs. When you have to deal with the acutes, you have to deal it in a different manner. And when you have to deal with the chronic, you have to deal with them in a different manner. And that's why it is so much necessary to understand whether it is acute or chronic. And last sentence which he has used is very important. These are termed as the chronic diseases. They are caused by the dynamic infection with the chronic miasm. The last sentence is very important. The chronic diseases are caused because of the dynamic infection. The word which he has used is the infection. The word which has been used for the miasm, he has used in the infection. Because all three miasms, the chronic miasm, they are the products of infections. According to the Hahnemann, they are the products of infection. Sora is the product of scabies, each caused because of Sarcoptes scabies, an infection, a mite that causes the scabies. Gonorrhea causing the psychosis is caused because of the Neisseria gonorrhoeae, a kind of infection. Syphilis caused because of Treponema pallidum, again a bacillus, infective focus. And all three miasms, which Hahnemann explained, they are nothing but the dynamic infections. And that's why Hahnemann labeled it by the name of a dynamic infection with the chronic miasm. And these are termed as the chronic disease. See, this is basic difference between two types of diseases, and these chronic diseases and the causes of chronic diseases have been thoroughly explained by Hahnemann in this aphorism. If you are able to judge and if you are able to understand the differences between these two, then it is possible, quite possible, to reach to the homeopathic management of acute disease and chronic disease properly. Then it is possible to reach to the right remedy with the help of proper case taking. And that's why it is so much necessary to understand this 72 aphorism. Here he defines clearly what are acute diseases and what are chronic diseases. So first thing, both the definition for the students, they should be marked up as it is. In the exams, 2 marks question is there always the define acute disease or define chronic disease, both are necessary to write it down. Now we'll turn towards the 72, 73. And this aphorism, he classifies the diseases. Here he starts further classification of diseases and he classifies acute diseases into the 4 types. So we'll learn them, those, what exactly he wants to explain. So aphorism 73 is further classification of acute disease. As regards acute diseases, they are either of such a kind that as attacks human being individually, the exciting cause being injurious influence to which they were particularly exposed. See, this is one thing where he wants to explain what is exactly meant by the individual variety of acute disease. But before going into the classification, few things I want to explain about the chronic disease. I want to explain the practical understanding of those chronic diseases first. I want to tell you that a patient comes to you with a wart on his face, and he explains, yes, doctor, there is a wart on my face. So, what type of disease it is, whether it is acute or chronic? He says that since 2 3 days I have noticed it. Is it acute disease or is it a chronic disease? Any idea? Patient says that it is since last 2 3 days I have observed it. Patient comes to you with an eczema on the lower extremities and he says that doctor, this is the problem, eczema. Is it acute or chronic? Basically, when you have to understand the diseases, first you have to understand exactly what it is. So it is one-sided chronic disease. It is a one-sided disease, a type of chronic disease, because it has very few symptoms. The definition of one-sided diseases, that diseases where very few symptoms are present are called as one-sided disease. So first, basically, you have to find it out exactly what type of chronic disease it is there, and really it is chronic or not. Because sometimes patient comes in an acute manner in chronic diseases. Many times, patient comes to you with hemorrhoids, complaints of hemorrhoids, and he had the external hemorrhoids which are fully developed, and he explains that since yesterday only I have the trouble. He doesn't know that those hemorrhoids are there since long time, but he started getting the complaints since yesterday. So hemorrhoids, it is not an acute disease, it is a chronic disease. So first important thing is that you have to understand whether patient disease is really chronic or acute, so that you can deal with those cases accordingly. So understanding the diseases is the most important part you have to deal with, and then you have to classify further. So now we will go into the enter into the acute disease, and first variety which he explains over there, the acute diseases which are affecting individually. First variety, individual. The exciting cause being injurious influences to which they were particularly exposed. He has given the example: excess in the food or an insufficient supply of it, severe physical impressions like chills, overheating, dissipation. Dissipation म्हणजे दुर्वर्तन, dissipation, strains, etc., or physical irritation, mental emotions, and the like are exciting causes of such acute febrile affections. In reality, however, they are generally only a transient explosion of latent sora which spontaneously returns to its dormant state if the acute diseases were not of too violent character and were soon be quelled. Quelled means uh, to suppress, dabun takne. So first variety of the acute disease, which he explains as the individual variety of acute disease, which are caused because of the exciting causes. And what do you mean by exciting causes? The things which excites the disease are exciting causes. They might be biological, they might be physical, they might be chemical, they might be psychological. Biological means something, some, for example, if you get suddenly, all of a sudden, some viruses enters inside your body, causing biological irritation inside your body. Sometimes physical impression, you are there inside the room where there is a lot of heat and you suddenly get problem, or if there is excessive chill, you get affected. Chemical, you might get some chemical and it affects your body. For example, you have consumed lot of acidic things inside your body, affects your body. Sometimes it might be a sudden trauma to your mind in the form of some all of a sudden some bad news affects you, and you develop certain features, and which are individualistic, which never affects many people. It depends upon the susceptibility of you. In case of individual diseases, susceptibility of the organism plays a very vital role. If the person is susceptible, he will going to get affected. If he is not susceptible, his susceptibility is normal, he will not going to get affected because of it. So susceptibility plays a very vital role. It never depends upon the exciting cause only, but along with that, the person should be hyper susceptible. So that is the first variety, and it is nothing but the explosion of the latent sora. The cause behind that is the sora. Original cause is lies in the sora. The person is soric, that's why he reacts. The person is soric, that's why the instantaneous reactions happens in in this person. So something happens and person's hyperreaction comes. That means the susceptibility is high. He is originally in latent sora. Because of exciting cause, his sora becomes explode, and that it comes out in the form of acute disease. And these generally with the help of any medicine or sometimes without medicine, if it is not of a too severe character, then it itself disappears. Person consumes lot of spicy food in yesterday and morning he gets the diarrhea and vomiting, and after 2 3 vomitings and diarrhea everything stops, and then he again goes into the latent sora state. So many times such type of individual or indisposition of mild character never requires a medicine, but indisposition of a strong character or a violent character always requires the homeopathic remedy to settle down. Sometimes some allopathic medicines are used by the patient. It suppresses that acute stage and patient again goes or land into the latent stage. So this is the first variety of acute disease called either indisposition or individual variety of acute disease. There are four varieties. The second variety which he explains, or they are of such a kind as attack several persons at the same time here and there sporadically by means of meteoric and telluric influences and injurious agents. The susceptibility for being morbidly affected by which possessed by an only a few persons at one time. Second variety which he explains about the acute disease is sporadic variety due to the telluric and meteoric experiences. Means what? The things which are happens around in the surrounding, in the environment. So things which affects which the surrounding things or surrounding environment which affects the individual here and there. Many people here and there at a time, but only few are sufferers. So there is all of a sudden change of weather and patient today, yesterday till yesterday everything was going on fine, and all of a sudden today it becomes damp. So everyone will not going to get suffered. Few who are susceptible to that specific environment get suffered because of environmental change. These diseases are termed as sporadic disease. So second variety of acute diseases again depends upon the susceptibility. The causes are, even though the causes are external, in first case it is exciting cause, in second case it is telluric and meteoric change, but both of them are external, and still the it depends upon the susceptibility of the individual whether he or she might get the disease or not. It never depends upon the environment. Environment is change of environment is for everyone, but everyone never suffers. Same is true when exciting cause is same for everyone, but few gets excited, not all of them. And this is the very important thing when you deal with the first two varieties of acute diseases, that is indisposition and sporadic, where your line of treatment, a thought is rather different in treating those diseases than the remaining two, that is epidemic and endemic diseases. But what about epidemic and endemic? That we'll discuss in tomorrow's session, because we have to understand, we have to differentiate basically these four varieties, and then it becomes quite easy to approach towards those four types of acute diseases. So today we have learned the definition of chronic disease. We have understood what is exactly meant by Hahnemann regarding chronic disease, how they are caused because of chronic infection of miasms, the venereal miasm in the form of sora and non-venereal miasm in the form of sora and venereal miasm in the form of psychosis and syphilis. And then we have started classifying acute diseases further. They are divided into four types. The first is individual or indisposition. Second is sporadic. Third is endemic, and fourth is epidemic, and fourth is endemic. out of which first two we have finished in today's session, the indisposition and the second is sporadic. Tomorrow we'll discuss remaining two and then we'll take a review how to approach in each of them. That is very important to understand. So these are the practical sessions which we have to learn by heart, and because our approach depends upon understanding. Once the things are clear in your mind regarding the disease, then it's quite easy to treat those diseases. So what to do, how to approach, what one must follow, all those things comes over there in these diseases. So that's all for today. Tomorrow we'll meet. Any query, any question is there regarding this, we can have chat, or otherwise we'll conclude. So no questions. So thank you very much being there. We'll meet tomorrow again at the same time. Thank you.